The way we work is changing every day, thanks in large part to the internet. So if you're an online creator, what can you do to create a sustainable future for yourself? On Attach Your Resume, creators share how their jobs work, especially during times like these where big changes are happening in the online world. Listen to interviews with internet reporter Taylor Lorenz, CEO of Patreon Jack Conti, representatives from Defector, Aftermath, and more. Whether you're an online creator yourself or curious about what's going on in the online Wild West, search Attach Your Resume wherever you listen to your podcasts.
An Awakening Women Facebook support group post, which is our free Facebook community, Awakening Women Support Empowerment Community. And I'm diving into something that one of the members posted, and I'm using it as an example to help you dive into what is actually happening here, because this is a pattern I have seen over and over and over again with so many women in my communities and programs. So we're going to dive into this common covert narcissistic abuse pattern of behavior that leaves you stuck, feeling trapped in the relationship, and feeling like you're actually losing your mind because it's just so confusing. And I'm sharing this with permission, of course. I asked her if I can use this as an example to record on the podcast, and she's given me permission, but the name is left out for confidentiality. So that is what we're diving into today. So get a notepad out and get ready to take some notes.
Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten. And for about the past 7 years, I've been a practicing holistic counselor and coach, guiding women to their empowerment, wellness, and wholeness through my holistic counseling and transformation methods. On this podcast, we go deep into self-empowerment, conscious growth, and breaking free from emotionally painful relationships. Think of this as your weekly dose of empowerment and personal growth. We will explore conscious evolution, emotional intelligence, getting in touch with those deeper parts of our being, as well as psychology and relationship discussion. I can't wait to get started, so let's dive into today's episode.
Okay, so I'm actually talking a little bit quietly because I'm up early and my teenagers are sleeping in just the next room. So hopefully the sound is okay and I'm not sounding too quiet. So what I'm going to do is read through this post word for word so that you have a full understanding of the situation. And then you can identify, is this something you're experiencing or not? Because if you're in a relationship with a covert narcissistic person, doesn't have to be someone with NPD, but a person that has the covert narcissistic abuse patterns that they're inflicting, you've probably experienced this over and over and over again. So this post really just, to me, explained the whole entire scenario of living in a relationship like this and why it leaves you feeling so crazy and confused. So here we go. She posted, I signed up for the ETC self-study course minutes ago, really looking forward to what it has in store for me. I have struggled with staying versus leaving this relationship for a while now. I speak calmly and try to explain my truth and politely try to set boundaries. He doesn't care. He gets mad and angry, yells at me in front of our son, name calls, talks in accusatory circles. I recently told him that he's not entitled to talk to me like that. It's not okay. I've tolerated it for a while now and I will not anymore, and the next time he does it, I'm going to leave. Well, he did it again, and I'm having such a hard time keeping my boundaries. I got paperwork started and struggled mentally all day at work trying to follow through. By the time I got home, he had the entire house, which was a large portion of our agreements recently. He had cleaned the entire house, did the laundry, was working in the backyard. I started feeling guilty that I would be the bad person. If I left, I'd file paperwork so that he wouldn't see our son for a while. There was zero apology, which is typical. He blows up and then pretends like everything is normal and asks me, what's wrong? He jokes around and wants to be sweet and loving. Can you relate, ladies? I see it. I know the pattern. I know what's going on, yet I still play into it. I feel like I'm losing myself more and more every day because I'm not heard and I don't feel strong enough to make the decision to finally stand up for myself. I think that whether I stay or leave, this course will help me heal myself. I just wanted to share where I'm starting from. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone and analyzed this, and I'm going to share with you what is actually going on here. So the one thing just off the bat is that just because you've said the next time he does it, you're going to leave, you have to be careful with making those kind of declarations because you have to be prepared to follow through, or you actually make things a lot worse. That's one of the downfalls of setting boundaries. You're not embodied and ready to enforce. So the boundary bootcamp in the ETC course is going to help you immensely with how to set boundaries that you can actually align with and back up. So if you weren't totally prepared and ready to leave next time he does it, which they're going to do it again, right? Why wouldn't he? It can actually make things worse because you're saying to him, I don't mean what I say. So you have to really embody those boundaries and be ready to back it up with a plan, which is, again, in ETC why I help you create your exit plan just in case right away. Like, it's something that you can dive into right away and start working toward. I don't recommend waiting until you're in a crisis and ready to leave to figure out what you're going to do. So you need to get that all figured out, and I line up exactly what that should look like, things that you need to be aware of, things that you could expect from him, and what you need to prepare for, and things that you need to get lined up. So make sure that you are diving into that. So that's one thing I want to say is, when you're saying, if you do this one more time, I'm going to leave. Well, when? In a month, in 2 months, when you get things sorted out? You know, a healthier boundary in there that you might be able to stand behind is, I will not tolerate this anymore. And if this continues, I won't be staying in this relationship. And that you can stand behind because you know that. And you can start taking steps toward that intention, which is what you're doing by being in ETC. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to cover 6 things that are going on here to help you to understand what is happening. So number 1, she mentions how she is sharing in a way that she feels is polite and calm, explaining her truth, trying to be understood. And he doesn't care. He sounds like he's probably stonewalling. He gets mad and yells and does all the childish behaviors, like I call kicking in the sandbox. And so that is when the accusatory circles start happening. So number 1 is, it's not about learning how to communicate. You don't need to learn any more skills on that. This is actually not a communication issue, even though he might have you believe that it is by saying things like you're attacking him or things like that. So that's what they tend to do when they're feeling attacked, is say you're attacking me. Even if you're saying facts and you're sharing your feelings in the most calm and direct way, he's going to perceive it as an attack, or he's going to start saying things like, I can't hear you when you're angry. I don't want to listen to you when you're angry. They don't like anger. Or saying, just accusing you of things, or trying to take power over the conversation, basically. There's different tactics they use to do this. So him refusing to hear you is the issue. That's the first thing. So it's not that you could have said it any different. So you can throw that one out the window, that it's not about you at all. I'm trusting that you are trying your hardest to communicate in the best way you know how. The second thing that's happening is stonewalling, where he's actually not listening, doesn't seem to care, gets mad, angry, and all that, and talking in circles. That's a form of stonewalling, but then it's also going into circular communication, which is crazy making word salad communication. Please listen to podcast 177 for more on circular communication. You need to understand what this pattern is so that you understand why every conversation you try to go into, no matter how well prepared you are to present what you want to talk about, why it never goes the way you want it to, and you end up feeling like, I guess I made a mistake bringing this up. It's my fault that I even brought this up. And you feel unresolved all the time, and you leave the conversation feeling drained, confused, and crazy. The fourth thing that's going on here is that he then senses her pulling away. This is what happens. So this is why you need to understand the process so you can remove yourself from it. It's the process you've been spinning in for however long you've been in this relationship. So he's sensing, or he knows that you're pulling away, that you're getting ready to leave. And so he starts hooking with acts of service and love to confuse and induce guilt. And so that is the manipulation. That is what is called love bombing, if you search that up. But it's basically a manipulation to keep you confused and manipulate the situation so that you start questioning, is it really that bad? I mean, he's doing all these amazing things. Look how wonderful he can actually be. But yet there's this other side to him that I see more often than I do these little crumbs that I'm getting, right? So that's part of the minimization, and it's part of the intermittent reinforcement, which is what I talk about in the previous episode. Please go listen to that one as well. You can see how they all kind of bounce off of each other because they're constantly the things that are being used to keep you off balance so he can maintain the power over and the control. That's what you need to understand. All of these are about him wanting to feel more powerful or in control of you. And then the next piece is that the zero apology, acting as if nothing has happened and jokes around, that is gaslighting, minimization behaviors. And instead of going fully into what those are, I'm not going to do that because I have several episodes on this that I recommend you go to. And please don't think you have to write all this down. I actually have linked in the show notes a blog that includes all of these episode numbers, so you don't have to worry about remembering this. So just make sure when you're done, you click on the link in the show note description and you'll see a link to the blog where all this is laid out. Because there's an episode on minimization, what that is, and then episodes on gaslighting. I have 3, so I will link those, but it's 155, 185, and 186 on gaslighting. And episode 179 goes into minimization and what that is. So that's what's happening here as part of the cycle. So it starts off, it starts off always with you trying to share your feelings, you trying to say you're hurting me, you trying to say, please stop doing this. I just want to work this out. I want to figure out a plan. I want us to work this out. I want us to grow together. I want this to be a healthy relationship. But these are the things that you're doing. Those are the kind of conversations that happen. So then it starts into the stonewalling, circular communication, attacking, blaming, like blame shifting, the crazy making communication, the word salad. And so it turns into this intense blow up. Then it comes back into the gaslighting, minimization with zero apology, acting as if nothing happened, joking around, asking you, aren't you over it yet? Those kind of things. And then his behavior is minimized usually in there as well. When you try to bring it up again, this is what you did, then it's still somehow minimized, right? It's still, he's making explanations for why he was doing that. And so then you're back in the cycle again because you've been sucked back in by the acts of service and love and kindness. And then it just starts around again. So can you see in this one instance that was described here that she was experiencing the entire cycle in one incident? So the cycle can happen all in one conversation, one day. It can happen over several days. And as things intensify, that's when you start to notice that they're happening closer and closer together and that they're happening in one conversation. In the beginning, it's more sporadic. It's kind of like, happens over a period of time because you might not be living with the person and not spending every single day with them. So the cycle might be a longer cycle so that you're not really seeing it. But as things worsen, then it becomes more closer and closer together, as I said. Now, I want to say one other thing is that we're talking about covert narcissistic abuse here. This might not look the same when you're looking at just typical emotional abuse from someone that is not narcissistic, because the two are not, one and the same necessarily. Like, you can have a partner that is emotionally abusive that is not narcissistically abusive, that doesn't have those narcissistic traits. But if you have a narcissistic partner that is emotionally, psychologically, financially, sexually, all those things abusive, and it's covert, they get away with a lot more. This is where you really question your sanity and you go and try and talk to other people about it, and they just say things like, oh, it's just part of marriage, or relationships are hard, or you just got to be there for each other, and all those kind of things, where I've heard women talking about that in my community, and that's basically being gaslit by people around you that are not listening to you, that you're in a relationship that is toxic, and they're trying to minimize your struggle. That's why I don't recommend going to friends or family unless you know for sure that they're going to encourage you to do what is in your best interest and not enable you to stay in something that is unhealthy, because they can't bear to look at the inconvenience it might be for them, or what they might have to look at in their own lives. If they say, yeah, that sounds like a horrible situation to be in, you need to take care of yourself there, that doesn't sound good, because they might be seeing some of it in their own relationship. So be wary of that. Do not go to people and talk about this stuff. Like, just don't do it unless you know for sure that they are someone that can actually hold space for you and challenge you to really get honest. Find another community. That's why my Facebook communities are so invaluable. While they're virtual, women are still getting help in there because they're seeing things clearly, that this is what I'm experiencing, and look at all these other women that are in the same situations. And so then they start to awaken even more. So because they are so good at masking the abuse and manipulation, they get away with a lot more. And that's why women who are with covert, narcissistic, abusive men end up being in the relationship for 10, 20, 30, whatever years. I have women in my ETC group that have been in relationship with one for that long. And that's because they're so stealthy and so good at being under the hood with everything, and so calm. A lot of times they're calm and you're the one that's acting crazy while they're sitting there calm, right? Because you're reacting to what's going on. But then they are able to turn on the calm and look at you like you got horns growing out of your head, right? So that is what I see from my experience and what I know of the cycle, which is what I go into depth into in the End the Cycle self-study course. So your pain to power takeaway for this episode is you must own your reality and stop getting sucked back into the fog, because that's what happens. This starts with knowing the cycle, the tactics, the types of abuse and behaviors you're experiencing, and you must awaken up to the reality and severity of the situation you're in. Because you're experiencing the covert narcissistic abuse cycle, it's easy to minimize what you're actually experiencing because he's minimizing it. It's easy to gaslight yourself and say it's not that bad, and you deny your feelings and question your feelings and wonder if you're being too sensitive because you've been brainwashed to believe that that's the truth. So that's why you need a different perspective to wake up and see it for what it is, the severity of it. I have heard stories from women in ETC where they're explaining what happens. Their partner goes out and gets hammered drunk every night and comes home drunk every night, and they believe that that's just what they have to tolerate. And then it takes being on a coaching call with me in our group session for me to really be honest and just help to shake them awake. Like, do you not see what is happening here, that this is not okay? And so then they wake up and they're like, oh, right, I just thought I had to tolerate this, but I don't. You get so beaten down and so trapped in the cycle that you can't even see a way out. And that's what trauma does. That's what codependency does. So you have to be the one to take the driver's seat. So if you're ready for a step-by-step process to get you from that place of confusion to clarity with a plan of action in 30 days or less, depending on how fast you blast through the program, I have my ETC self-study course, and it is designed to do just that, to take you from where you are now experiencing these patterns to clarity on what's happening. This is the biggest piece, the clarity of, oh my gosh, light bulb moments, now I get it. To now what? Create the plan and make your decision either way, whether you're going to stay for now, start to create your exit plan, and leave the relationship. So it's designed to help you wherever you are at. But if you take the program, more than likely at some point you're going to discover, for most of you, that it is probably not salvageable. That's the reality. But sometimes it is. Sometimes there are those odd times where the person will want to do whatever they can to keep the family intact, and they will do the work. But even then, sometimes it might not be enough because so much has already happened. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. That doesn't help, because you're looking at your whole entire life right now and what will happen if you leave. And so I don't want you to think too far ahead into that. You don't have to make any decision by purchasing ETC, you're not deciding that. You're deciding, I'm going to take my power back and do something tangible here to get clarity, to develop a plan, and to know what my plan is so I don't have to tolerate this for one more minute longer than I have to, right? So if you're interested, the course is always up on my website, or you can click the link in the show notes. That's it for this episode, and I'll talk to you again in the next edition. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I'm so grateful that you chose to tune in and take the time to be part of this movement and this message. If you'd like to join a community of awakening women, I invite you to join our private Facebook community for career and entrepreneurial women who are working on breaking free emotionally from unhealthy and stressful relationship dynamics in their life. The other thing that I would recommend is that you follow me on Instagram at Awakening Women. And lastly, if you love this episode and this show has served you, please take a moment right now and leave a rating and review on iTunes. I would so appreciate it, and I'll speak with you again in the next episode. Take care.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad heard only in Canada. Reach great Canadian listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Email bob@libsyn.com to learn more. That's bob@libsyn.com.